You may recall this incident during President Trump's recent speech to Congress.
Small business optimism saw its single largest one-month gain ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions.
Now, this is Al Green, a Democrat from Texas. He's no fan of Trump, and he decided to let Trump know how he felt about him. Let's listen in some more.
That's your warning. Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
The Sergeant-at-Arms went ahead and evicted old Al, and that was that. Afterwards, this is what Al had to say about his eviction.
I'm willing to suffer whatever punishment is available to me. I didn't say to anyone, don't punish me. I've said I'll accept the punishment, but it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
Recently, the House voted to censure Green for his conduct, and I know what you were thinking while all this was happening. I wonder what Johnny Walker Dredd thinks about all this. Today I'm going to tell you. Then we'll hear from The View and their absurd take on the incident. Then we'll play a clip of Rashad The Fraud Richey's take and see how wrong he really is. Why? Well, he's Rashad. Being wrong is his hobby. Hello out there. I am trying to get through it.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
So here is Speaker of the House Johnson explaining the decision-making involved in the incident.
The interesting thing is he was censured for disrupting the proceedings of the House. And while I was reading the censure that was voted in, by the way, by 10 House Democrats who joined Republicans in that, they disrupted the proceedings of the House. So there's some irony there. We have to keep decorum. We have to keep control of the proceedings because we're the greatest deliberative body in the world, and we need to act like it. And I think this went way over the line.
I want to remind you that Green didn't put up a fight when the Sergeant-at-Arms came to boot him from the chambers. Nor did he criticize anyone involved in the decision to remove him or censure him. I find it odd that the term civil disobedience hasn't been used in this conversation. Al Green intentionally broke House rules knowing there was a punishment for doing so. He willingly accepted the punishment. That is civil disobedience, a long-time American tradition. That's how it's done. And I applaud Al Green for standing up for his constituents, even if I don't agree with his political stances. I hold no ill will toward him at all for his actions, and I don't think most of you watching this video do either. What about The View? What do they have to say?
I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality.
But the speaker, also known as Mike Johnson, wasn't hearing it. Now, this is what he said about that. Watch.
They take no pleasure in making history like this. I want us to have proper decorum. I want us to maintain really the great tradition of this institution, and these things do damage to it, and I'm sorry that it happened.
Now, I don't see any conflict between those two views. Al Green said that he disrupted the proceedings intentionally, and Mike Johnson is saying that he had no choice but to censure him for doing so. Where's the issue?
What about an insurrection? Does that do damage to the institution?
And I think that the people who were involved in that were actually charged and tried. So I don't quite understand her point.
10 Democrats voted to censure Green.
Oh, those bastards. They're probably fascists. They're Nazis.
Do you want a list of the 10?
Do you want to hear their names?
Yes,
We want their names. We want their addresses.
I do.
Why go after them, too? Go after the
Because
Republicans.
they don't know how to fight and be part of an opposition party. Representative Green gave them the example. The
And you do know how? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Democrats are not meeting the moment. It is very clear that Medicaid is on the table. It is very clear that Social Security is on the table. It is very clear that people will die. The baby boomers, the civil rights generation, they knew what they had to do. They were willing to fight and die for their rights. This generation of Congress, they are not meeting the moment. This is an
Well, are you picking up your rifle and going to fight and die?
existential crisis.
And also, I might point out, some of them are from the most liberal states like New York, Hawaii, California.
They should be
Right, because many of the very liberal states understand civil disobedience. It's a liberal concept. This is not hard. Basically, she just wants Democrats to be a left version of MAGA.
ashamed of themselves.
Okay,
They should
I
have
won't
all
say-
walked out with him.
And three are from districts.
Here's a question. Where was all this talk about decorum from Republicans when Marjorie Taylor Greene was screaming at Biden? Okay.
Well, was she given a warning to be quiet? If she was and she refused, then I would have assumed that Mike Johnson would have done the same thing.
All right, now, you want to hear where they are? I'm going to read them. Amy Berra, Ed Case, Jim Costa, Lauren Gillen, Jim Himes. Jim Himes. I would never have thought that. Christy
He's probably one of those fascists.
Houlihan, Marcy Kaptur, Jared Moskowitz. What?
Yeah.
Marie Glusenkamp Perez from Washington and Tom
I
Suozzi.
think, respectfully, though, there's a lot of people who saw the outburst differently, including Democrats, which was if you're going to protest and be an opposition party, do it with intentionality and make sure it works. Holding up signs, it's protesting like, are they being advised by people who use like Windows 98? It's the most outdated, inconsistent.
about Green,
not but to his point, I get his point on Medicaid, but this mandate point, if Democrats are going to keep arguing, we only lost by X million of votes, that is not the winning message you guys think that it is.
By the way, is there a burr under Sunny Hostin's saddle perpetually? Does she ever smile? I've seen plenty of these shows, and she just sits there and fumes the entire time. Lighten up.
He doesn't have a
But
mandate.
can I just tell you what Suozzi said, why he voted?
How many votes do you need
for
win
him?
by to have a mandate?
This is Suozzi's, he's a New York guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Both parties must hold themselves to the same standards we expect from the other side. See, they're going to a gunfight with a knife, as they say.
Therein lies the problem, you see.
Yeah.
Look, I like civility in Congress. And I think that when you are in Congress, we are not at a WWE wrestling match. This is not the House of Commons. This is the U.S. Capitol. The problem is that this is not happening in a vacuum. We all remember when Joe Wilson, the Republican congressman, stood up against Barack Obama giving a State of the Union and called him a liar.
And he was promptly censured for it. But enough of this. I just can't handle Sunny Hostin's attitude anymore. Let's move on. What about Rashad Richey? Oh, geez, we're going from Sunny Hostin to Rashad Richey. I fail to see how we've improved the situation at all, but here goes. And while you may think, oh, Johnny Walker Dredd stopped the video just so that he could have Rashad's face frozen like this. No, this is the opening screenshot.
10 Democrats side with Republicans to censor Representative Al Green because he told the truth.
Yeah, that's exactly why they did it. They were asked, well, why did you censure him? Oh, because he told the truth. Rashad.
Here it is.
Continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant at Arms to restore order to the joint session.
Restore order to the White House,
No, they were in the House of Representatives.
to the voters, to the working family. All right, here we go. Republicans wasted no time to punish Representative Al Green, Texas Democrat, who decided to disrupt President Donald Trump's precious speech. GOP Rep. Daniel Newhouse on Wednesday formally introduced a resolution against Representative Al Green, who was removed by the House Sergeant at Arms after standing up and shouting during the opening minutes of Trump's speech to Congress. Speaking on the House floor, Newhouse, a Washington state Republican, said he was seeking punishment against Green, a form of condemnation, once considered rare in the House chamber for his numerous interruptions of the president's speech. The House is expected to hold a vote Thursday, according to a GOP aide. House Democrats failed to block an effort to kill the proposed censure on Wednesday, paving the way for it to go forward. We got to read them out loud. Put up the 10 Democrats that did this treacherous thing.
Treacherous. Wow. Treasonous. Traitorous. I mean, you're not allowed to vote your conscience? You're not allowed to vote against Rashad Richey's whims?
And keep their names up. It is ironic that we were talking about another Representative Green who disrupted a president's speech, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And it's interesting how quickly we forget that democracy is about expression.
Well, if you're interrupting the president from being able to speak, you're kind of diminishing his ability to express his opinions. This freedom of expression goes both ways. It was Trump's turn at the podium. And no, you're not allowed to disrupt it. But will he ever understand this? No. Because he's just dumb. I mean, let's say it. He's an idiot.
Every single Democrat and unbought Republican, if there be one, should have stood up after Representative Al Green.
Yeah, a Democrat is never bought. Really? Okay. As for his claim that every one of them should have stood up, okay. I mean, I would have had no problem with that, but they all have to accept the punishment.
And did exactly what he did. So here are the 10 Democrats. Go ahead, primary them. Go. They're not ready for this.
You're going to primary Jim Costa? Okay. He's only been in Congress for, God, an entire eon. He's easily one of the most powerful representatives in Congress, and you want to primary him, huh? Okay. You're going to play right into the Republicans' hands. They would love it if you primary these people. Moskowitz. These are not newbies.
Not ready for the kind of battle that we're in right now. They're just not ready for it. Green said Wednesday he was not angry with the speaker, officer of the House, members bringing resolutions. He told reporters, quote, "I will suffer the consequences."
Good for him. I respect that. And you should too, by the way, out there in viewer land. Even you MAGAs should respect that. It's civil disobedience. That's how we do it here in this country. If you don't believe in civil disobedience, you're not an American. Well, okay, maybe that's a little strong.
It sounds like leaders we looked up to for moral support and guidance during the civil rights era. They were willing to take unjust punishment in order to move the collective forward.
How is this punishment of censure unjust? It's in the rule book. I mean, that's what you do if somebody refuses to go along with house rules. It's not unjust.
All right. My thoughts.
What?
Now, you're going to have a little bit of a voice of sanity here. He's going to explain to Rashad why he has it kind of all wrong. And he's going to talk about civil disobedience, even though he's not going to call it out by name. And he's going to explain this actually pretty clearly. You think Rashad's going to learn it? You think any of it's going to sink through Rashad's thick skull? Ha! Here we go.
You know, I think I'm going to veer a little bit away from your take on this.
Well, that's the last time you're going to appear on his show.
Which is allowed, of course. But I think that the rules of the House and the unjust punishment, in a sense, this is what Green is saying. It's important that I did what I would do. He also clearly said he would do it again, but he realizes that it comes with what is really a just punishment by the House rules. If
just punishment, as I said.
A member brings these kind of, charges of censure for disrupting, as they did with Joe Wilson of South Carolina when President Obama was speaking, and from the back of the House, you heard Joe Wilson scream, "You lie." Well, Jim Himes of Connecticut, who voted to censure Representative Green today, said that he did it because he did it to Joe Wilson too. And the rules of the House are the rules of the House, but he associates himself with what Al Green is saying. So I think there is a little bit of nuance there, and I'm not trying to tiptoe around it, but the rules of the House, and there are some people that are concerned that it's going to go both ways, as it did with Joe Wilson. And your Marjorie Taylor Greene comment is true, although I don't recall the instance where she was. I think the part of the problem for members of the House was that the speaker said stop, and he didn't stop, and he wouldn't stop. And good for Al Green for not doing that. He made his point, and he stole a lot of thunder from whatever it was that the president was saying.
Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, if Johnson had told her to be quiet or that she was going to be escorted out, she probably would have shut up. Now, you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, why didn't he tell her? One, I don't know if her behavior transcended to that point where it was needed, but also Johnson is a Republican. She's a Republican. The party in power is always going to get a little more leeway. That's just the way it goes.
He was talking about Medicare, and he was talking about things that are being stripped by this president. And that point, I think, goes on beyond this. Even Al Green went and shook Dan Newhouse's hand, the man who brought the censure resolution. Others were going to do it, but he got there first. And he said that he bears no animus toward the people that did it from his own party.
So Al Green is saying, hey, I don't see a problem with people voting to censure me. So why should Rashad Richey care? Why should The View care? They care because they don't understand
House rules. And so I wouldn't jump to say we got to primary these people, but we do have to. I think the best thing that I heard you say, or maybe it was someone else, but that everybody else should have stood up, right? Everybody else should have made that same peaceful protest and gotten that point across to what the president was saying in the House the other night, that they punished Green in this way, which, I mean, censure may have been something in the 1800s. It doesn't really matter to most Americans today. That doesn't bother me as much.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. If you don't mind me saying, Michael.
That's what I just said you were, so you're entitled to say
there you go.
I won't censure you.
There you go.
Yeah.
The 10 Democrats, I'm going to put them aside, then bring them back. Let me first highlight the reason why whatever punishment he receives is unjust. It's not because of the context of the rules. Remember, there were rules in this country that said Rosa Parks could not sit at the front of the bus.
I'm sorry. You can't use that to excuse every breaking of the law or rules or codes that you come across, that you want to engage in, or that you want to support. Yeah, he broke into a liquor store and he stole some money, but, it was also true that Rosa Parks broke the law. It doesn't matter. This isn't Rosa Parks here. You can't use Rosa Parks as your get out of jail free card. There are still rules that you have to follow. And if you break the rules, especially when you do it intentionally, you have to pay the price. That's how it works.
I mean, it was a rule.
Right. It was a law. I mean,
Right.
it was a law. Yeah.
It was a law. That's right.
Right. And the laws of the House are different than the laws of the streets. But
Well,
yes.
give me a moment.
I will.
I'm
Yeah,
taking
I'm
you somewhere
sorry.
with this.
I'm sorry.
And in order to progress the collective, in order to move forward, freedom, justice, equality, equitable outcome, a higher order of morality and ethics and being had to be established. And so,
Well, who gets to set that? You? In other words, I think we should be able to break the law whenever I feel that I don't like the law. That's what he's saying. Rosa Parks knew when she wouldn't move to the back of the bus that she was going to pay a price for that. And she did it anyway. She did it intentionally. That's civil disobedience. What he's advocating for is that, well, the rules don't apply to us if we don't like them. Therefore, there should be no punishment. This is all about justifying any kind of behavior that supports your political worldview. And it's the very essence of censorship, because that's how it's going to get applied. It's going to be designed to shut the opposition up. Al Green should be able to disrupt Trump's speech anytime he wants. And if he wants to continue talking, you shouldn't be able to do anything about that. And the fact that Trump was not even able to give out his address because Al Green interrupted him constantly, well, that's okay. That's all supported. Now, if you did this to Biden or Obama, what do you think he would be saying then?
So while, yes, technically the rules were broken, technically they could go to jail. Technically, they could be on probation. They could have their privileges suspended from participating in these activities in the city, riding the bus, voting, etc. So that's within the confines of the institution. But when the institution itself is horribly corrupt, the actions that you take are calculated based on the ethics that you hold core, right?
Because I guess before the elections, the House of Representatives was a holy place, a place of honor and ethics and honesty. But then the election came and we had a few seats change over, and now it's the most corrupt institution there ever was. Do you see how he's justifying this? Because Republicans control the House, therefore it's corrupt, therefore we should be able to behave however we want.
So my point is, this is a different era. We're in a different stage of politics. You see what's happened. This is not the time, in my opinion, to throw up rules and act as if we are still in 1990. We're not. This is a different game.
We're not going to abide by rules anymore. Rules? That's so 1990. We don't need rules and laws and codes. Come on, it's a new era. Do you see where the whole impetus to burn buildings and set cars on fire and smash windows and beat people up comes from? That's it. This is what he's talking about. It's a new era.
This individual is playing a dangerous game with the lives of the individuals who empowered you to be in Congress in the first place. And the only thing sacred now are the voters that put you there. And so I would argue that any punishment would be unjust because of his moral outrage, and everybody should be morally outraged by what happened. As far as the 10 Democrats, I don't think they're up for the kind of fight that's required to overcome this type of regime. Brother, this isn't a political party anymore. When have you ever seen a Republican president being able to do this and get complete cover from basically every Republican in the House. This is a cult in politics, brother.
No, there's no. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm basing my disagreement with you just on the constructs of the House and their rules, some of which are arcane, but some of which, if they weren't in place, would have this happen every single time somebody took to the well of the House or the Senate. So as foolish as they may seem on their surface, I'm glad that Green did what he did. I'm glad that he said he would do it again. I'm glad that he resisted. I'm glad that he also when he said that he had bore no animus toward the speaker or the people that escorted him out.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah, no, he's a good man. But what I'm saying is he also knows, right? He voted present. He didn't vote against his own censure.
He didn't even vote against his own censure. And Rashad is all in a rage over it.
He voted present rather than for or against. So I think we're probably on pretty close to the exact same page. Yeah. I just think that there's some people that look at the institution and the rules of the institution and see, like Jim Himes said today, that, I voted for censure against Joe Wilson, had to do it here. In order for us to get anywhere, we got to at least make sure it's not mayhem, basically, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You say you understand, but I don't believe you.
Want to go down a slippery slope. Dear brother, the slope then slipped. We are already there. We're already there.
On substance, I couldn't agree with you more. And if the Democrats have a problem messaging, Al Green is the first person who has messaged. And he messaged in a way that was disruptive, it was peaceful, it was rhetorical, and he said he would do it again. So I think that is to me the biggest progress in 40 days of the Trump presidency, or however many it's been so far. The biggest progress we've seen in terms of messaging was done by Al Green on Tuesday night.
And that's the point. If we got 10 Democrats that won't break a damn rule for you, a rule, while the opposition party, they are breaking the law for their constituents. They're breaking the law. We got Democrats won't break a rule.
He just doesn't understand civil disobedience at all.
It's not a fair playing field. If you're not ready to play in this game of politics as it is today. That's just my point, brother. Damn, hell with all of them. I'm sticking with Al, brother. I'm sticking with Al. I don't give.
If you're sticking with Al, then what's your problem then? Al said he didn't have any problem with the censure vote. So why do you? So we need some more civics education in this country. Civil disobedience. I learned it, and I think I was in, 8th grade. It's a time-honored tradition, and we shouldn't get mad at people for exercising it. Now, what happens off the time is they're willing to break the law, but they're not willing to accept the punishment. That's a completely different thing. We call those criminals. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.